Alright guys, another week and we are back for another episode of the Championship Transfer Rumour Roundup. Plenty of done deals have gone through since our last instalment and a bunch more transfer rumours to sink our teeth into as well. As always, do get all your thoughts in the comments down below, but without any further ado, let's jump in. We saw Sheffield Wednesday snapping up Momo Diaby. He's coming on loan from the Portuguese League for the season. Sheffield Wednesday's 9th summer signing there. And we also saw Sheffield Wednesday completing a deal for Jadi Gassama. Very much excited to see how this deal goes. They've picked up the forward from PSG. He's not played that much senior football. Did spend last season out on loan in Belgium where he got his first proper taste of senior football, but has impressed at youth level. And yeah, very much looking forward to seeing how he develops over this next year or two. Swansea got a loan deal over the line for Charlie Patino. We did discuss this one in last time's video, but it has since been confirmed. Looking forward to seeing how he gets on at Swansea. Thought we saw both sides of Patino at Blackpool last season. Started out really quite well. Thought the first half of the season he looked quite impressive, but did tail off quite badly in the second half of the season. I think that Swansea should be a good environment for a youngster like Patino to maybe show more of that progression. Obviously, we'll be linking up with Jerry Yates once again, who he formed a decent partnership with last season at Blackpool. And we also got the confirmation for Gustavo Hamer moving on to Sheffield United. Gutted to lose a player as good as Hamer from the Championship, but I think a move this summer was always on the cards given his contract status. And at the end of the day, Coventry have got a really decent fee for a top player who only had 1 year left in his contract. Sheffield United are getting a fantastic player who definitely goes ahead and boosts their own survival chances in the Premier League. And as we've already seen from Coventry so far this summer, they're certainly not afraid to reinvest that money that they've made straight back into the starting 11. Another big hitter leaving the Championship, James Ward-Prowse's move to West Ham has been confirmed, with the Saints receiving a fee in and around the region of £30 million. We only got to see one glimpse of Ward-Prowse in the Championship really in Southampton's season opener. Again, Sheffield Wednesday, he would have been a cheat code at this level had Southampton managed to keep hold of him throughout the entire season. But I think he's got a good move there to West Ham, albeit I'm sure the Saints fans are still gutted. And we saw a crazy transfer saga going on surrounding Jack Harrison. In the end, his loan move to Everton has gone through. We saw Aston Villa coming in at the last hours to maybe try and hijack the deal. In the end, that deal didn't go through because Harrison will be kept out for the time being with that injury. So he's moved over to Everton on loan. It does leave Leeds in a little bit of a sticky situation, especially compared to Southampton and Leicester. All three clubs coming down from the Premier League have lost big saleable assets, but Leicester and Southampton have all received massive transfer fees for their biggest players, whereas Leeds, the same can't really be said so far. They lost Rodrigo, but he had a cheap relegation release clause in his contract, and then the other real big hitters that Leeds have lost so far have all gone out on loan, so Leeds aren't receiving that much financial benefits from those players going out other than getting them off the wage bill for the time being. Does perhaps make it a little bit more tricky for Farker and that Leeds board to go about rebuilding the squad then perhaps than it would the likes of Leicester and Southampton, who have a little bit more financial freedom. Would welcome some Leeds fans in the comments down below on what you've made of your transfer activity so far and how slow it has been to get deals over the line. But guys, those are some of the done deals we've seen go through in the Championship over the past few days. Now without any further ado, let's hop into the rumours. And we are braced to lose another big star from the Championship as Chuba Akpom seems to be on his way to Ajax. This move may have already gone through by the time you guys are watching, but David Ornstein has confirmed that Ajax do have an agreement in place with Middlesbrough where the Dutch club will pay around about £10 million plus another £2 million to come in add-ons on top of that as well. Does leave Borough in a bit of a tricky situation. Now, don't get me wrong, from a financial standpoint, probably makes sense for Borough to cash in on Akpom at this point if Akpom wasn't willing to sign a new extension with them, given he only had 1 year remaining on his contract. And they're on about £12 million all in for a player who had one explosive season, only with 1 year left in his contract. I think is decent from a Middlesbrough perspective, and Akpom also gets a dream move to Ajax where he's moving to an absolutely massive club with Champions League football. But when you go ahead and compare pound for pound what Carrick's working with now in terms of the strength of the starting 11 compared to that Middlesbrough side at the back end of last season, there is a considerable dip in quality because of the loss of Akpom and those loanees from last season. They've done some savvy recruitment with the future in mind so far, but it does feel like a real injection's needed in that Borough side right now that is going to take that starting 11 back to the quality it was last season. Crystal Palace are said to be weighing up a £10 million bid for Southampton forward Che Adams. Now, Southampton find themselves in a fairly similar situation that Borough find themselves in with Akpom, where Adams only has 1 year left to run on his current deal with Southampton. I'm sure the player would be open to a move back to the Premier League as well. Now, Adams has featured off the bench in each of Southampton's opening 2 championship matches. He's actually done really well, scoring in both of them. There's a bit of a debate at the moment if Adams is to stick around for the season, who's the better number 9 to lead the line for Southampton, Armstrong or Adams. Both have been fantastic in both matches so far, but I think with Adams you get a little bit more in terms of that overall game. Can definitely see why there is Premier League interest. It'll be interesting to see what sort of fee the Saints would be willing to accept, having already cashed in on some big assets already. And we've also got Southampton's RUMOUR Lavia, who is off to the Premier League. It seems, as of recalling, like a move to Chelsea is on the cards. Even after Liverpool had finally got an agreement in place with Southampton, the player went ahead and turned around and said, actually, I want the move to Chelsea instead of Liverpool. Crazy U-turn, transfer hijackings. We've seen both clubs competing for the same players in this window, but it does seem as if a move to Chelsea is now on the cards. Manchester City will be laughing all the way to the bank, as they had quite a significant sell-on clause in Lavia's contract. They'll be set to receive around about £10 million from this sale. Southampton themselves still getting a really decent transfer fee and another saleable asset who looks to be off to the Premier League. Now, at one stage it looked more than likely that Tyler Adams would be moving on from Leeds to Chelsea. That move has fallen through, but he could still get his Premier League move, as Bournemouth have now triggered his relegation release clause, which is set to be around about 20 million. I think every Leeds fan was expecting Adams to be off this summer, but Bournemouth have done quite a bit of savvy business so far. When we did our Premier League predictions last week, we spoke about Bournemouth's need for another holding midfielder after they'd lost Jefferson Lerma, and I think picking up someone like Adams would really fit the profile of what the new manager's looking for. And Leeds will get a bit of a financial bump with this one, but they're also losing a very talented player. And the exit talk is rife at Leeds United at the moment. We've had the developing situation surrounding Wilfred Gnonto and the Everton links. That story continues to develop, and we've also got exit links surrounding Luis Sinisterra right now. Now, I'd have loved nothing more than for Sinisterra to stick it out with Leeds this season in the Championship, because I think he has the potential to be one of the best players at this level, an absolutely explosive player who, if he stays fit over an entire calendar year, can be the difference between Leeds being involved in a promotion push or not. But links abroad have since surfaced. The likes of AC Milan, Bayer Leverkusen and Feyenoord are all said to be interested in his services. And what this does for Daniel Farke is it does sort of undermine his position at the moment in terms of the squad he went into the season with, given what he'll then be working with coming out of this window. We've got no idea how many big earners might be leaving Leeds between now and the end of the window, and it does leave Farke in a very difficult situation to replace all of these potential outgoing players in such a short time frame. Leicester City still hold an interest in QPR playmaker Ilias. Now, we touched on this transfer rumour earlier on in the window when Leicester were first announced as interested in the playmaker. Their interest seemed to cool somewhat when the season got underway, but it's currently back in circulation. Now, QPR are in a relatively decent position to negotiate a price tag for Che. He's still got several years left in his contract, with that expiring in 2025. Plus the club having an option of extending that by a further year. Certainly in a stronger position to negotiate his price tag than they are Willock, whose contract expires at the end of this season. Despite being in a pretty lacklustre QPR side last season, Ched did put up some of the best creative numbers in the Championship, and you can definitely see why a club like Leicester would be interested. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall has been an absolute joy to watch in the Championship so far, but Leicester could have a battle to go ahead and keep him at the club come the end of this transfer window, with Liverpool said to be interested in the midfielder as potential Jordan Henderson replacement. Now, you can tell watching him that the guy is just a level above the Championship. I mean, especially that opening day performance against Coventry, he was absolutely spectacular. Everything went through him in an attacking sense, and you can see Maresca sort of wanting to build this new look Leicester City side around him. Would be interesting to see how much money a club like Liverpool will be prepared to spend on Dewsbury-Hall, considering they were willing to go, you know, up to around about 55 for Lavia. One to keep your eye on over the next week or two. Millwall centre-half Jake Cooper is on Rangers' watch list. We have seen the Scottish club being linked with the Millwall defender of late. I'm very interested to see how this story develops over the next few days and weeks. It does appear as if Rangers are in the market for another big dominant centre-half, as we'll speak about in just a sec with another player there being linked to. But the Cooper links are interesting. I do believe he's only got 1 year remaining on his current contract at Millwall, which does expire in the summer of 2024. Millwall fans, I'm sure, will be desperate to keep Cooper around, but if the right offer was to come in with 1 year left in his deal, Millwall could be tempted to sell. And the links to Jake Cooper are quite interesting because Rangers are also being linked with the move for Leicester City defender Harry Souttar. Now, a shame really that Souttar doesn't really seem to be in Maresca's plans. We saw him on the bench for their season opener against Coventry, but other than that, he's not been part of the matchday squads for their latest game against Huddersfield or that game in midweek in the EFL Cup as well. The link to Rangers, considering they're also said to be considering a player like Cooper, would make sense, although the Rangers manager Michael Beale has sort of dismissed these transfer links so far, but he does tend to be that sort of manager that does play down these transfer links until a deal actually goes through. Looks to be that Souttar isn't in Maresca's long-term plans, and so I wouldn't be surprised to see a move go through this summer. And it is interesting that Rangers are looking at signing centre-halves at the moment. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Ben Davies leaving the club this summer. He was left out of Rangers' Champions League squads. It seems as if Beale is happy to let go of the player. Now, since leaving Preston, Ben Davies hasn't had the easiest of times, really. He made that real surprise move to Liverpool out of nowhere, didn't feature for them, had a loan spell with Sheffield United, but injuries largely hampered that, and not had the best of times by all accounts at Rangers either. Now, myself speaking as a Preston fan, when we had him, he was one of the best defenders in the Championship, thoroughly deserved his move to the Premier League at the time, but his career since then has somewhat stalled. Now, earlier in the window, there were a few light rumblings here and there that Stoke were potentially looking at him, and considering the other former players that Alex Neil has snapped up in this window so far, wouldn't be at all surprised to see that move potentially going through. Stoke weighing up a move for Ben Davies. I think he'd fit an Alex Neil system like an absolute T. Ben Davies played the best football of his career under Alex Neil, so that's definitely one worth keeping your eye on over the next week or two. Luton Town are said to be in advanced talks with Norwich City goalkeeper Tim Krul. Now, we already know that Luton are in the market for another goalkeeper. They've already snapped up Thomas Kaminski, but Rob Edwards is keen to add to this department with a little bit more strength and depth. Obviously, Tim Krul, a player with plenty of Premier League experience, is currently the number 2 at Norwich and only has 1 year left to run on his deal at Carrow Road. Wouldn't be surprised if Luton were able to work a deal there. Now, Luton's move on to Tim Krul is really quite interesting, especially considering that just a week ago they were more than keen on Birmingham's John Ruddy. Luton stepping up their attempts to sign him, offering quite a bit as well in terms of an actual upfront transfer fee, but the latest developments claim that Birmingham are now desperate to keep hold of Ruddy and aren't really prepared to replace him this late on in the window. They feel like they've got quite a settled back line and goalkeeping department there with Ruddy, and they don't want to lose him at this stage, and so it seems as if Luton could have moved on to another target in Tim Krul. And we had some massive news for Birmingham at the opposite end of the pitch. It seems more than likely that Ruddy will be sticking around, and they now have a deal in place to sign a striker as well, with Birmingham agreeing a fee for Sorry Cabba. Now, he was out on loan with Cardiff the second half of last season in the Championship, and considering he was in a side that didn't score a lot of goals, getting 8 goals in 12 starts and 5 sub appearances really was impressive. We've spoken previously about Birmingham's need to strengthen their forward line. We were actually discussing it yesterday on the Championship roundup. Someone like Scott Hogan, capable of being very busy in and around the final third, but they're just lacking that final piece of the puzzle up front, and Sorry Cabba could be exactly that. Now, just a few days ago we were reporting on Watford, who looked to be the Championship club leading the race for the 28-year-old signature, but it appears as if, as of recording, Birmingham could have swooped in ahead of Watford, which would be, yeah, a massive transfer hijacking. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and do get all your thoughts in the comments down below. Plenty of transfer activity going on in the Championship right now. As always, do get involved in the conversation, but apart from that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.